From Eyewitness News, this is Newsmakers.
Looking for a European getaway? Well, this summer you won't have to trek to Boston's Logan Airport to get there. Starting this week, TF Green will have direct flights to Frankfurt, Germany, with connections elsewhere via Condor Airlines. Other international flights may be on the horizon, plus the status of the runway expansion. With our guest in the first half of Newsmakers, the president and CEO of the Rhode Island Airport Corporation, Kelly Fredericks. Then, for the first time in recent memory, the Rhode Island House of Representatives approved a budget proposal before the sun went down, and not one single vote was cast against the $8.7 billion tax and spending plan. What you need to know about the fiscal kumbaya at the State House with our Reporters Roundtable. Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. Joining me on the panel, WPRI.com reporter Ted Nesi. Kelly Fredericks, President, CEO of the Rhode Island Airport Corporation. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. It's good to have you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
I notice you're wearing a pin that has the American flag and the German flag next to it.
You are correct.
Today's a big day for TF Green. We're taping this on a Thursday at 6:20, I think. A flight, Condor Airlines, is touching down at TF Green, and then it's going to fly out after a ceremony, I assume, and head to Europe, to Frankfurt, Germany. How big a deal is this?
It's a huge deal. It was a very, very big story in the aviation industry this year. It's huge for us. We'll actually have 2 international flights today. But it connects us with Frankfurt. You know, our vision is to connect Rhode Island with the world and also bring the world to Rhode Island. And they have more international connections out of Frankfurt Airport. So it's a huge deal for us.
So when you talk about connections, you know, a lot of people are going, I don't know that I really want a vacation in Frankfurt, Germany, although I heard it's a lovely city.
It is. It's a gorgeous city.
Where else can people get to?
Well, actually, I won't name them all, but they actually have 135 different countries, international markets they can get to. So virtually anywhere from Frankfurt.
And you have talked about in the past flights to Dublin. You've talked about flights to London, to the Dominican Republic. Where do those stand?
Well, you know, it's an ongoing process. We're in a grinding phase. We think that they make sense. We're just trying to find the right marriage with the right carrier, but we think Ireland's on our horizon. We think that London or the UK is on our horizon, Dominican Republic and Cancun as well. And we can't discount the Azores. We had them once before. So we're never going to be Boston Logan, but there are a significant number of other international opportunities for us.
It seems like Ireland, I feel like everyone said you're getting close to Ireland for a long time. What's been the holdup with getting those flights to Ireland that have been talked about for so long?
Well, you know, it's got to make economic sense for both us and for the carrier, and we just haven't found that right blend. But I'm really encouraged. We are in a partnership with the Shannon Group, the Shannon Airport in Shannon, Ireland, and with their relationships, our relationships, we're just trying to put together the right package. So, you know, I'm still hopeful that perhaps 2016, 2017, we might finally have that link between Rhode Island and Ireland.
Moody's Financial Services this week changed the outlook on the Airport Corporation's bonds to negative. They cite $238 million in debt and lackluster passenger traffic. What does this mean for the corporation?
Well, you know, it's something we're very strong financially. I never come away from the rating agencies completely pleased, but I can't disagree with their assessment. It's based on the employments. It's based somewhat on the Rhode Island economy. We think, and I use the word stabilized, I was hoping for a stable outlook. Our passenger traffic has stabilized. So, I don't think that it means that much because I think we're very much moving in a positive direction. I think we've, for lack of a better term, bottomed out. So we're excited about the future.
Yeah, bottomed out. Quite a bottom, too. TF Green's lost more than 2 million annual passengers over the last decade. You were at a high of 5.7 million in 2005, only 3.6 million last year. What went wrong?
Well, I don't think anything went wrong. The industry changed completely. How we got to that 5.7 million, there was planes flying at half full, 60% full. That wasn't sustainable. The industry has changed. There's been consolidations, mergers. A lot of the air carriers have gone out of business. We're excited about our growth now because as we grow, we think it's going to be sustainable, and we think that we'll get back to 5 million and beyond. So I don't think anything went wrong. Just over the last decade, the industry changed completely.
How soon can you get back to 5 million, do you think?
Well, you know, I'm trying to be a little more reserved in my projections when it comes to that. But I think that, incrementally, I'd like to think in the next 3 to 5 to 7 years, we're there and beyond. And that's a critical mass. All of the analysis that we've done and our air service development analysis consultants have done, we think we're underserved by perhaps 30 to 40%. So we're optimistic about getting there, and it's going to come from the north and the east, that shared catchment area primarily with Boston.
It does seem though like in the last few years we were told repeatedly that we've bottomed, but and I no disrespect, but we've bottomed, and next year is going to be better, and then next year would be down again, and then the year after that, we'll be done, but then it's down again. I mean, were the best laid plans of TF Green not work out in the last few years? Have you had to change strategy because it didn't bottom as quickly as you thought?
No, I think realistically, Ted, that we've become far more aggressive in our air service development initiatives, in what we're doing, trying to incentivize air carriers, and again, we're in a non-sexy grinding mode. We don't have a demand problem. We have a capacity issue. We need more seats in our market, and we think that as we get those seats and we convince the air carriers to provide those seats, whether it's larger aircraft, more flight frequency, and even new destinations, we think we're going to fill them, and that's going to start getting us back to what I believe is essential for us, that 5 million and beyond critical mass.
Everyone always looks at passenger travel as far as the number of measuring the success at TF Green. Are there other metrics that you look at?
Well, a whole host of them. That's one of them, obviously our financial stability, but we're also treating our cargo activity not unlike our passenger activity.
And
now,
where does that stand?
Actually, we're in a growth mode, but we think that we've got in the analysis that we've done that there's opportunity to continue to grow that. We've got great partnerships with UPS and FedEx, and we think that's yet another opportunity for us to increase the economic
Isn't
benefit.
their big complaint that they can't land and take off at night?
No, it's not. It's really the ability. We need better facilities for them on site. We need better ramp space, more ramp space. So it's actually the more infrastructure improvements we can make to accommodate them. And again, not unlike our passenger traffic, they too are looking to the convenience and accessibility of TF Green over some of our competing airports.
We hear Bradley Airport in Connecticut is running ads on Rhode Island radio, trying to get people to go there instead. How much are you feeling, we always talk about Logan, but how much are you feeling the competition from the smaller competitors? You have Bradley, maybe Manchester up in New Hampshire.
Great friends with both of those airports, but we're not competing with them. I'm not concerned.
You're not frenemies?
Well, perhaps we're frenemies. No, actually, we're dear friends with both the directors there, and I like the folks at Logan as well. That's our opportunity to the north and the east. We're really not concerned about Manchester. In the same way, the shared catchment area with Bradley, I don't necessarily agree with their marketing strategy. Because they're advertising here, we're certainly not going to invest any of our marketing dollars in Hartford. So we're not concerned with that.
But, as Ted points out, you do hear the ads here.
Sure.
If we traveled elsewhere, are we going to hear TF Green ads elsewhere? Are you advertising in Massachusetts on their airwaves up there?
We are. Around the perimeter, certainly we're doing some advertisement, both, on printed ads, radio ads, both in Connecticut and in Massachusetts, and billboards, but again, not as far west as Hartford. It's around the periphery.
Runway expansion, where does that stand?
Actually, and I'll knock on wood when I say on schedule, on budget, we actually broke ground as part of an overall $250 million expansion program. The runway expansion is about 55% into the design. Everything is going well, and we are going to open the new expanded runway on December 7th, 2017.
And when would flights, and what kind of flights? So when you open December 2017, that's when flights are going to land? Is that what you consider?
That is correct, the expanded runway, correct.
And what kind of flights are we looking at here?
Well, we're hoping that it frees up. Right now we're under operating restrictions. The expanded runway guarantees us nothing, but we think that we've got solid business plans for West Coast service that we presently can't serve, be it to San Francisco, Seattle, San Diego, and Los Angeles.
How can we not serve those airports, but yet we can fly to Frankfurt?
Because of the Gulf Stream. You've got, it's about departing. They have a giant wind, if you will, against them. They need the longer runway where they depart. The operating restrictions we're under right now, it's almost like telling a hotel in peak season that you can only sell 80% of your rooms or so. So we have to offload. We have weight restrictions. So we'll eliminate those. And again, if we put together the business plans, which we're in the process of doing, we think that there's West Coast opportunities.
So it sounds like partly if you build it, they will come, where you think you need the bigger runway to turn around the passenger numbers?
Yeah, part of it. That's certainly going to help. But again, the grinding, with our present footprint, we're investing in the future and in the facilities. I would not say that it's, if we build it, they will come. But in the contrary, there's also no guarantee. We've got to do the business. But again, it's going to be a number of more tools in our tool belt to expand our passenger service.
You also have the very expensive Interlink project was done there. I think $267 million, I want to say it was pegged at in the end.
Vicinity, yeah.
Roughly. One thing that surprised a lot of people is that there's no Amtrak service.
Yeah.
It seems like you built a big, fancy, nice new train station, yet it's not connected to the regional rail service. I believe that's about electrification. Are there any plans to get Amtrak to go to TF Green?
Well, two things. You know, from my wish list, we think that it's an underserved asset, but I really think that 20 years from now, people will be saying, boy, they were visionary for having that facility. But we have connectivity. We have 10 or 11 round trips with the MBTA right now, but the connectivity in the ideal world, we'd love to have that as an Amtrak regional stop. That's not going to happen anytime soon, but we are collaborating with RIDOT in hopes of getting some sort of alternate shuttle service that'll link us to the Providence station and beyond. So really, in the best of both worlds, gets us that connectivity to the Amtrak regional service. So it's clearly, yes, being worked on behind the scenes.
When Southwest Airlines sneezes, TF Green catches a cold. By far, they are the largest carrier that you guys have. What has been the impact of them expanding to Logan International Airport?
Well, it's a huge impact. What Ted touched on, you know, as far as our decline in passengers, JetBlue and Southwest have had a huge impact on that because of their presence or growth up at Logan. But they've been a great partner. They're about 48% of our market share. We think there's significant opportunity with them, and it's in the grinding mode. I mean, very candidly, we want to see Denver service with them. We want to see Las Vegas service. We're hoping a little bit farther down the road, Houston Hobby service. So we think there's enormous opportunity with Southwest.
This week, the governor's office put forward a new version of the proposal to toll commercial trucks in Rhode Island. And you are in there, actually, because there are a number of provisions for local truckers, one of which is they want to add a $500,000 grant program that RIAC, the airport corporation, can give out to truck companies that use TF Green a lot. Are you hearing concern from the trucking companies that take cargo that comes in at TF Green about the possibility of tolling in Rhode Island?
Well, not specifically, but anytime we have the ability to incentivize, and it would be primarily to our cargo carriers because we have about 23,000 annual truck deliveries to the airport, and about 15 to 16,000 of those are associated with FedEx and UPS. We think, and again, the program is in the formative stages, if you will, on how we're going to implement it. We think it gives us an enormous economic development tool. So complaints now, we think this is a very positive thing.
Before we came into the studio, I was doing some searching on Google with the TF Green, and I found this bizarre privacy impact assessment by the government. The Department of Homeland Security, and correct me if I'm wrong in any of these details because I breezed through it. They're using TF Green as a testing ground. In essence, the government is bringing in actors to behave, I guess, oddly, and they're going to collect video surveillance to see if they can be identified through algorithms and such. But it looks like members of the traveling public may also get captured on video here. What can you tell us about this?
Well, you know, I have to be cautious. Number one, I will say the TSA has been a phenomenal partner with us, and we try to interact and interplay with them as much as possible and partner with them. However, this is something that has not come to fruition yet. We want to make sure from the RIAC perspective that it passes all the legal muster from a privacy perspective. So perhaps the announcement was a little premature. You know, we may ultimately do it, providing all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. But at this point in time, it's certainly not underway.
But walk us through it. If I'm traveling through TF Green, and if this agreement between RIAC and the TSA, Department of Homeland Security, comes together, how does it impact me? Am I going to see signage that there's a video? Am I going to know that I'm part of this pet project?
To that end, and that's one of the reasons why we haven't entered an agreement, the specifics from our perspective, from the airport perspective, have not been mapped out yet. So I wish I had a concrete answer for you, Tim, but I don't.
How about this one? Why TF Green, and is RIAC getting any compensation for it if it does happen?
No, it's just that we're a pilot program. We have an enormous security system, and again, through partnership with the cameras and again, our ongoing relationship with TSA. And just that we were selected because of kind of the size of airport and the equipment that we already have in place.
TF Green has a huge impact on its neighbors down in Warwick, as you know. I know you spend a lot of time on that. One question I have for you, I was talking to folks there recently, and they remind me there was once discussion of making Airport Road a tunnel so that the airport could stretch across Airport Road and you'd have more room. Is that something you'd still look at?
Not at this point in time, and I think it would probably be cost prohibitive, Ted. We actually, as part of the expansion program, they had looked at the safety programs, not a tunnel, but bumping out a portion of the road but that's just the cost prohibitive. So I don't see the alignment based on the airport of Airport Road changing anytime soon.
Another question I've heard is, as you add international flights, as you hope to add these West Coast flights, will that mean that you have to increase the soundproofing footprint of how many homes TF Green soundproofs in the neighborhoods around you, because the planes will get bigger or louder or whatever?
Well, actually, the contrary. We have a very aggressive, about a $30 million sound installation and acquisition program associated with noise at this point in time. But with technology, we think that the sound footprint, hopefully, is going to begin shrinking, even though we're going to be extending the runway. And our acquisition and noise program now addresses, I think, through noise contours through 2025. So we don't think so, but again, we're already expanding quite a ways out.
Any other homes in the works to be taken by the airport at this point, or is that part of the project done?
No, actually, we've got a voluntary acquisition, so it's the ongoing program that'll take us to 2025 at this point in time.
But are you getting, bites on that hook? Is there still a lot of interest with this voluntary acquisition to have homes taken, and how many?
I don't know if I would say a lot of interest, but there is interest, and as part of the runway expansion, I believe our acquisition program addresses 564 homes. Beyond that, I can't, because I don't know off the top of my head how many we have potentially in the program associated with the voluntary program.
I want to end where we began, Condor Airlines. Again, congratulations on the flight today. This is a seasonal service, correct?
It is.
Why?
Actually, into the market, and they looked at our demographics when we were selected, and we competed for this, and we were able to get it through strong partnership with our tourism agencies. They felt this was the best market to come to New England. As we become more successful, as the planes become fuller and fuller, if you will, we're hoping to see that season extend, beyond September.
Kelly Fredericks, President and CEO of the Rhode Island Airport Corporation, thank you very much for joining us on the program. And when we come back, we're going to tell you what you need to know about the state budget that passed through the House in lightning speed. Stay with us. You're watching Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. I am joined on this Reporters Roundtable by WPRI.com Ted Nesi. With the two of us, maybe I should call it a bistro table.
Yeah, it's a pretty small table. There you go.
All right, so you were at the State House this week. I want to talk about the budget. How bizarre was it to have the budget completed and through the House before the sun even set?
We were shocked. I mean, it would have been funny to have the reporters mic'd up that night as we all buzzed among ourselves. I mean, it started moving quickly, immediately, quicker than we're used to. And the chatter among all of us who were covering it was like, well, they'll slow down on the pension settlement for a big debate. They'll slow down on the Medicaid changes for a big debate, maybe something else. But they never did. It just kept going and going and going. And they were really done debating in 2.5 hours. Then there was about a half hour of aren't we awesome kind of speeches, clapping each other on the back, and then it was over.
Well, and we've seen
these, unanimous.
We've seen these debates. That's a good point too. We've seen them stretch into the early morning hours, going, into the just forever endless debates. What do you make of it? Why was it so fast?
I think there are a couple things going on. I think you have a fairly moderate Democratic governor now who proposed a budget a lot of the rank and file lawmakers could generally get behind. Of course, they had issues with parts, but then you have a moderate to even somewhat conservative Democratic House Speaker. Again, someone who's kind of in the middle. There are people who disagree for sure, but who they were kind of, in the end, they have to manage their 75 people in the House, and those people were generally okay with what was that. And then I think Speaker Mattiello, to his credit, really runs the House differently from his predecessor, Gordon Fox. You hear constantly from lawmakers, he always opens the door to us. He'll always take a meeting with us. He's always listening to us. And, they might say that. Of course, they have a reason to say nice things about the Speaker. But I think this is when you saw the proof that actually makes a difference for him because, the rank and file are never going to beat back usually the budget. It's settled. It's a sealed deal. Leadership has it in the tank. But they can make his life difficult to have hours of fights. They didn't want to do that to him, so they let it go.
And I spoke to the House Speaker this week in his office, sat down with him for an interview, and he cited that he said, look, I try to be responsive to everybody's concerns, and I have an open door. If I can't get to you within a couple hours, it'll be within a couple of days. So he cited that as well. But he disagreed with me when I said, I would imagine that the budget would have gone differently if the tolls were in it. And he said, no, whatever, it would have gone smoothly, and I'm paraphrasing him. I got to give a thumbs down on that statement with all due respect. If the tolls were in the budget, I think it would have been you'd still be there.
Maybe. Oh God. I think, you know, I saw your interview. I don't know if this is what he was thinking, but that his version of the tolls, he thinks he would pass me, which is not the original that's gotten all the criticism. I think he has some faith in the fact that he can find some middle ground on the tolling issue that you know, gets the trucking industry, at least reduces their opposition, and then can get the House on board with it.
So there is a new bill. There's a bill in the Senate that's tweaking the proposal to toll truckers. Give us some highlights. Yeah, so
I was briefed on that by some Raimondo administration aides yesterday. You know, the overall goal of their entire proposal is the same: borrow money to speed up how fast they repair the roads and bridges, the bridges especially, and then pay that back by tolling trucks. What's changed in the new proposal is they've whittled down the amount of money that would be coming from that from $700 million to $500 million. They want to restructure the state's federal highway debt to yield $120 million. And there's a whole suite of programs aimed at the truckers. You know, a cynic would say to buy off the trucking industry, rebates, tax credits on their property taxes, on their motor fuel taxes, on their car registration fees, the TF Green thing we just mentioned, as well as another one for Quonset. So a lot of efforts to basically give back. They say more than $13 million of the $16 to $17 million they estimate local trucking companies would spend.
So most people are watching this program on a Sunday, and the speaker said that this week the session's going to come to an end. He didn't rule out to me that they could actually tackle tolls by the end of session, but that's looking more likely it'll be a special session.
Yeah, it's clearly the energy for pushing that over the finish line soon seems to be with the Senate. Senate Majority Leader Ruggiero is the one who put in the revised bill. Speaker Mattiello he's been walking a fine line. He keeps saying he likes the idea, but he keeps also saying it's not ready for a vote yet because he doesn't think it had enough for truckers. I think the hope on the administration side and in the Senate is that they've done enough in this new version of the bill to make the speaker say, okay, it's fair to the local truckers, we can pass it. But he has not stopped. I think he said to you again, he wants to have a fall special session, or he's leaning toward that as a time to tackle it. So I think it's possible it could happen in the next week, but he really hasn't been setting the table to push it over that fast.
A lot has to happen. When you talk to the Raimondo administration about the latest proposal in the Senate, was there any concern at all that reducing the bond from $700 million to $500 million isn't going to be enough? Will that get the job done?
I think they were concerned about that, which is why this complicated refinancing of the federal highway debt, which dates back to the Carcieri era. I think a lot of it was the debt for the I-Way 195 relocation. That yields $120 million. So that now gets them, now they're up to $620 million for their bridge program, down from $700. Most of the way there. Really what they did, they said to restructure it, is that they extended out, it'll take another year until 2025 for them to get the 90% of the bridges to structural sufficiency. And they also are pushing back, you know, the Republicans put up a proposal this week saying we shouldn't be borrowing money to do this. We should find the money in the current budget. And the Raimondo folks, they acknowledge that people don't like the idea, but they say by borrowing the money, we can do a lot more projects sooner, and that avoids costs further down because they want to stop, they're really emphasizing this now, stop bridges from going from not so good to truly structurally deficient, because the difference is, do you have to repair them or reconstruct them, which is a lot more expensive.
As evidenced by this conversation, obviously what's not in the budget is often as important as what's in the budget. And the other thing that wasn't in the budget was the PAWSOX. And when I sat down with him, to talk about that, he said, there's no way we're going to hit that up by the end of this session. He wants to push that into a special late summer or fall session. But I asked him about the major concern the public has with any public spending into a new stadium, especially in the wake of 38 Studios. And I asked if he would pledge if there would be no major public spending on the project, and here's what he had to say.
Whatever the deal that's ultimately proposed for the PAWSOX will be well thought out, will be fully aired and vetted to the public, which is not what happened with 38 Studios. They will know the terms of it, and they'll be fixed and set terms. It's not going to be a gamble. The PAWSOX aren't going broke. The Red Sox aren't going broke.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they're not going broke. And he didn't answer the question, of course, about public spending, and that's
in the standings. That's going to
be right. But clearly, sounds like someone that supports the stadium.
Yeah, and I think even Speaker Mattiello might admit, we can ask him when he's on Newsmakers next week, but he's been the strongest supporter, the one definitely keeping the flame alive on the PawSox Stadium. With the Senate's been pretty quiet. Governor Raimondo has been more trying to be the bad cop, saying this deal's not good enough, and he, I think he's trying to get the message across people they're not staying at McCoy.
Right.
And now the decision for Rhode Island.
He said that over and over again in that interview. And he's making that to the people who are like, just keep it in Pawtucket. That is not an option, he said. It's not happening. So if you want to keep him in Rhode Island, this might be it.
Now, the problem, I think, for Mattiello and other supporters of the stadium is that as I interview folks about the idea, I'm surprised how many people say, I don't want to spend public money on this, so go to Massachusetts then.
Yeah, thanks.
And so that's in some ways a harder challenge, because if their challenge was just convince people they won't stay at McCoy and then people will spend the money, that's one thing. But I think a lot of people are very, very leery of forking over a lot of taxpayer money to get this stadium built.
And as Ted alluded to, we're going to have House Speaker Nicholas Mattiello right here on this set for Newsmakers next week, so be sure to catch that. And if you made it this far into the program, it means that you probably like Newsmakers at least a little bit. Now you can take the show with you, as well as Executive Suite, Ted's program, on a podcast. You just have to go into iTunes and search Newsmakers, or search Executive Suite, and subscribe to it. It's absolutely free, and you can listen to it anytime you want. For Ted Nesi, I'm Tim White. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you next week on Newsmakers.